In the year 2247, humanity had spread across the stars, colonizing distant planets and encountering countless alien species. Among the vast expanse of the galaxy, the planet Lyra 9 was a barren, desolate world, known only for its rare mineral deposits. It was here that Captain Elias Vorn, a rugged and solitary miner, found himself on a routine excavation mission. Elias had spent most of his life in the void of space, far from the bustling colonies and the politics of the Galactic Union. He preferred the silence of the stars and the simplicity of his work. But his life was about to change forever. One evening, as the twin suns of Lyra 9 dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain, Elias heard a faint, almost imperceptible sound. It was a whimper, soft and desperate, carried on the thin, cold wind. He followed the sound, his boots crunching against the brittle ground, until he found the source. Curled up in a shallow crevice was a small, fragile-looking alien girl. Her skin was a pale, shimmering silver, and her large, almond-shaped eyes glowed a soft, ethereal blue. She was shivering, her thin frame wrapped in tattered, alien garments. Her long, silken hair, the color of starlight, clung to her face, damp with sweat. Elias knelt beside her, his heart pounding. He had never seen anything like her before. She was beautiful, yet otherworldly, like a creature from a dream. Her eyes met his, and he saw fear and hunger in their depths. "Hey," he said softly, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The girl flinched, her delicate hands clutching at her chest. She tried to speak, but her voice was weak and raspy, as if she hadn't eaten or drank in days. Elias quickly reached into his pack and pulled out a ration bar and a canteen of water. He offered them to her, holding them out slowly so as not to startle her. At first, she hesitated, her eyes darting between the food and Elias's face. But then, driven by hunger, she snatched the ration bar from his hand and devoured it in seconds. She drank the water greedily, her small hands trembling as she held the canteen. Elias watched her, a mixture of pity and fascination stirring within him. "What's your name?" he asked, though he wasn't sure if she could understand him. The girl looked up at him, her eyes wide and pleading. She opened her mouth, and a series of melodic, alien syllables spilled forth. Elias couldn't understand her language, but he could sense the desperation in her voice. "All right," he said, nodding. "Let's get you out of here." He carefully lifted her into his arms, surprised by how light she was. She clung to him, her small body trembling against his chest. Elias carried her back to his ship, the Starfire, and set her down in the small medical bay. He activated the ship's AI, which began scanning her vitals. "Captain," the AI's calm voice intoned, "the subject appears to be suffering from severe malnutrition and dehydration. Her physiology is unlike any recorded species in the Galactic Union database." Elias frowned. "Can you help her?" "Affirmative. I will administer nutrients and fluids intravenously." As the AI worked, Elias sat beside the girl, watching her closely. Her breathing steadied, and some color returned to her pale skin. She looked up at him, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice soft and melodic, though heavily accented. Elias's eyes widened. "You can speak my language?" She nodded weakly. "I learned from your broadcasts." Elias smiled, a warmth spreading through his chest. "That's impressive. What's your name?" "Lyra," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Lyra," Elias repeated, the name rolling off his tongue like a melody. "I'm Elias. You're safe now." Over the next few days, Lyra regained her strength. Elias learned that she was from a distant star system, one that had been ravaged by war. Her people, the Lumine, were a peaceful race, but they had been driven from their home by a ruthless enemy. Lyra had been separated from her family during the evacuation and had been wandering the galaxy alone, searching for a safe haven. Elias found himself drawn to her, not just out of pity, but out of a deep, inexplicable connection. She was unlike anyone he had ever met, gentle, wise, and yet so vulnerable. He felt a fierce desire to protect her, to keep her safe from the dangers of the universe. One evening, as they sat together in the Starfire's observation deck, watching the stars streak by in hyperspace, Lyra turned to Elias, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and hope. "Elias," she said softly, "my people, we are dying. Our numbers grow fewer with each passing cycle. If we do not find a way to preserve our kind, we will fade into oblivion." Elias frowned, his heart aching for her. "Is there anything I could do to help?" Lyra hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands. "There is a way, but it is not easy, and it requires great sacrifice." "Tell me," Elias urged, his voice firm. Lyra looked up at him, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. "My people, we can only reproduce with those who share a deep spiritual bond with us. It is not just a physical union, but a merging of souls. If you were to bond with me, we could create new life. Our children would carry the legacy of the Lumine and ensure that our kind does not vanish from the universe." Elias's breath caught in his throat. He had never considered having children, let alone with an alien. But as he looked into Lyra's eyes, he felt a profound sense of purpose. He knew that this was his destiny, that he had been led to her for a reason. "Lyra," he said, his voice steady, "if this is what you want, then I will do it. I will bond with you, and together, we will create a new future for your people." Tears spilled down Lyra's cheeks as she reached out and took Elias's hand. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice trembling with emotion. "You have given me hope." The bonding ceremony was a simple yet profound ritual. Lyra guided Elias through the steps, teaching him to open his mind and heart to her. As they stood together in the Starfire's cargo bay, surrounded by the soft glow of bioluminescent crystals, Elias felt a strange, tingling sensation spread through his body. It was as if his very soul was merging with Lyra's, their essences intertwining in a dance of light and energy. When the ritual was complete, Elias felt a deep, unshakable connection to Lyra. He could sense her emotions, her thoughts, as if they were his own. It was both exhilarating and overwhelming, but he knew that this bond was sacred, a gift that would forever change his life. Months passed, and Lyra's body began to change. She was carrying their child, a miracle that defied the laws of biology. Elias watched in awe as her belly swelled, his heart filled with a love he had never known possible. He vowed to protect her and their unborn child, no matter the cost. But their happiness was short-lived. The enemy that had driven the Lumine from their home had not forgotten them. One fateful day, as the Starfire orbited a remote moon, they were ambushed by a warship of the Krylos, the ruthless race that had destroyed Lyra's people. Elias fought valiantly, piloting the Starfire with skill and determination. But they were outgunned and outnumbered. As the ship systems began to fail, Elias knew that they had only one chance to survive. "Lyra," he said, his voice urgent, "you need to get to the escape pod. I'll hold them off as long as I can." Lyra shook her head, her eyes filled with terror. "No, Elias, I won't leave you." "You have to," Elias insisted, his voice breaking. "For our child. Please, Lyra, go." Tears streamed down Lyra's face as she kissed Elias one last time. "I love you," she whispered. "I love you too," Elias replied, his heart breaking as he watched her disappear into the escape pod. The Starfire was engulfed in flames as Elias fought to buy Lyra time. He knew that he would not survive, but he also knew that his sacrifice would ensure the survival of his family. As the ship exploded in a blinding flash of light, Elias's final thought was of Lyra and their unborn child. Lyra's escape pod drifted through the void, carrying her to safety. She cradled her belly, feeling the life within her stir. Though her heart ached for Elias, she knew that his spirit would live on in their child. Years later, on a distant, lush planet, a young boy with silver skin and glowing blue eyes played beneath the twin suns. His mother watched him with a smile, her heart filled with love and hope. Though the galaxy was vast and filled with danger, she knew that the legacy of the Lumine would endure, carried forward by the son of a human and an alien, bound together by a love that transcended the stars. And somewhere, in the endless expanse of the cosmos, Elias's spirit watched over them, a silent guardian, forever united with a family he had given everything to protect.